It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and the Boss Superpower Series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I'm here with my very special, wonderful friend, best boss guest co-host. Well, that was a big old mouthful. Law Lapidus. Yay!
Thank you, Annie. It's awesome to be here. What a great introduction.
Oh, Law. You know how I was like, that was such a mouthful to say? And literally, I try to talk for a living. And it's a great segue into the topic that I'd like to chat about today. And I know we've discussed this briefly before, but you and I have both had either people on your roster or people that submit to you. And I have students that ask me, they come to me, they have a heavy accent, or they might have a little bit of a lisp or a speech impediment. And they will say to me, so is this going to affect my voiceover career? Will I still be able to do this? Law, I'm going to ask you, how do you approach that?
Thanks a lot, Annie. Well, truth to tell, the agency does get quite a few submissions. We just got a couple today that clearly, if anyone has a pretty decent ear, can pick up some sort of speech issue going on, whether it's an impediment, a slur, a sibilant sound, whatever it is. And it's common. It's actually quite common. And I'm careful not to tell people, oh, forget it, count yourself out. You can't be in this game. Forget it. I always like to say, let me offer some. If I'm going to do it, let me offer some strategies based on what I'm hearing and what you could be doing as the talent to see, is it accurate what I'm hearing? So the first thing I would suggest to a talent is cross-check it and poll it with 6 or 8 of your closest peeps connected to the industry if you can. Whether it's an audio engineer, a coach, a couple VO talent, and say, hey, listen to my recording. Do you hear any kind of an articulation issue? Do you hear a slurring issue? Do you hear anything? And be honest with me and get kind of like an informal poll on that first, because I never just take one person's opinion on it. So that's the first thing I would do. If they are hearing issues, if they are hearing problems, I would actually say, okay, let me see who is around that I can be getting on a consultation with, who is maybe a therapist, a speech therapist, and figuring out, how do I diagnose where I'm at right now with my speech, and who can help me get to a clearer sound. That's really the first thing you have to figure out.
Yes, my prerequisite is that I need to be able to understand you. So I like to say there's a lot more acceptance for, let's say, minor speech impediments and dialects and regionalisms. I mean, it's more accepted than ever before. However, I need to be able to understand what you're saying. So if it gets in the way of me understanding what you're saying in a normal conversational speed, then I feel as though you might want to either talk to a speech therapist or a dialect coach to see if it's something that can be cleaned up. Sometimes it's a physical impediment, like it's placement of your teeth, or I've had people that come to me with braces and they're like, I want to do voiceover. And so they have a big mouthful of lisp and saliva. And sometimes that's not going to be hireable. And I'll just say, well, at some point you'll want to make sure that you're going to be getting those off and whatever it takes for you to be able to speak a little bit clearly. Now, I'm the big fan, Law, and I don't know about you, but I don't want people to be too articulate. I need to be able to understand you, but too articulate creates a persona which is maybe not forgiving enough for the copy a lot of times. Like, it might sound too proper. It might sound too robotic. It might sound too perfect. And I don't want that, but I certainly want to be able to understand you.
Right. And I think it's the old rule of thumb. Like, if it's something that is pulling focus away from the messaging, and people will tell you, a listener should be able to tell you, even just a layman listener should be able to say, am I focused on what you're talking about? Or am I focused on the particular speech or the particular dialect issue that you may be having? And I would even talk to voiceover coaches that deal with speech articulation and breathing, as many of us do. Many of us are trained in that. And oftentimes that that unto itself can help. Learning breathing. Are you breathing properly? If you did have those braces and you had them taken off 10 years ago, did you ever learn to speak with proper placement based on now where your teeth are and where your tongue is going and all your major articulators? Did you ever acclimate to the speech of that? I think is a really good question to ask. And also, we can't discount, Annie, the mental acuity when it comes to our habitual patterns that we're doing. Like, are we even aware of them? Do we even hear them?
Do you mumble?
People will say, oh, I know I do that, Law. Oh, I know. I've been told. And I said,
then you need to correct
do
that.
something.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
right. It can't just be, I have knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Right. I have knowledge. Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it gets me into accents and dialects a little too, in the sense that we just met with a potential client today and talked about that, where he came from. I said, where's your background and where do you come from? You have such an ethnically amorphous dialect and it's so fascinating. And he said, here's what one of my coaches told me. Don't bother trying to eliminate that sound. It's going to be really hard, really impossible. You get to a certain age, you don't want to be spending tons and tons of cash on dialect coaches. It's immense to do the training to really flatten out that sound to get what's called a North American dialect, which you probably can't get after a certain age. It's very difficult. So I say, no, you have to celebrate what you have. You have to celebrate
your diversity, celebrate your uniqueness. Absolutely.
Yes, but instead of yes and yes, but you have to be real about what placement that's going to give you.
Sure.
I'm a commercial agent. If I got a bunch of North American clients coming through, they're probably not going to want your particular sound just because the target market, you don't represent that.
And basically tacking on the end of that, Law, I get a lot of people, British accents, right, that want to do commercial. And I'm like, well, your market is probably not the United States right now. The wonderful thing about voiceover is that it's global, but probably in a commercial market in the U.S., you don't hear a lot of commercials that have British accents, right? However, you'll hear a lot of e-learning that has British accent because, hey, who isn't a sucker for a really lovely British accent? And it's pleasant to listen to for sure. But I think you have to talk to someone, and your coach or your agent should be very real and very honest with you to understand that there can be limitations to your market for sure. And they should advise you as such. I would welcome the diversity. I would welcome your uniqueness in your sound if you have an accent or a regionalism. And I think that it's wonderful. I mean, I am so happy because, God, how many dollars did I spend trying to get rid of first I had an upstate New York accent, and then I moved to New Jersey, and then I had a Jersey accent, and then I moved to California. So I've got a mishmash of all of them. And over the years, when it was important to people to have that very neutral, whatever a neutral accent is these days, right? And I beat it out of myself. And so in reality, it's not uncommon for people who've been in the industry for a while. They're used to that. But I think today I welcome people that sound unique, that sound like themselves. I think it's wonderful. But again, you have to understand your market may be limited. But also embrace what it is. And if it is an impediment or it's a problem physically with how you're speaking or your physical in your mouth, I think it's something to maybe take a look at if you truly want to be in this business.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the vocal patterns that we create over time, I'll get a lot of submissions of people that, again, they have a beautiful voice and they're articulate. They're fine, but they're in these patterns, and what we call them as mono patterns, where they're not one tone specifically. They change their tonality, but it's patterned. It's like rhythmic or rhyming, or there's a certain cadence to what they're doing so that it's formula, it's expected, it's a rhythm. And I say, take your acting classes, work in your coaching sessions to break that.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely where acting comes into play, because you're basically just trying to do voice acting by mimicking what you think you hear, or what you hear in your head as to what you think people want to hear. And in reality, just wipe that out and just act. Because we don't ever think about what we sound like when we talk to one another. We just, I'm not, do I inflect up? How do I sound? I'm talking to you right now, Law, and I'm not concerned with how I sound, to be honest with you. I mean, we're talking. We're having that conversation. Yes. But you're right. There are patterns, and anything that is repeated or consistent can become very white noise, very robotic, very reedy sounding, which does not engage your listener. And the whole purpose of what we do is to be able to connect with our listener.
Yeah, and I think that just the basic rule of thumb is, and again, you can ask around to get this feedback, is there anything that's getting in the way of my messaging? Whatever it is, just tell me what it is. And it may even be something beautiful, like, oh, I have a sexy, seductive sound, and I turn that on. I turn that on all the time. Well, sometimes it's not appropriate to
stop
do that.
that.
Sometimes sometimes it's coming out on a product that they're not looking for that.
Exactly.
So it's getting in the way. The mechanics of that are getting in the way of the product itself.
And I have a big issue, and now that you brought that up, I have a big issue with females trying to sound that way and people expecting that females sound that way because, number one, that's a horrible stereotype. And that's the chocolate commercial or the alcohol commercial. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't take another Dove commercial.
I just can't. I just can't. As a matter of fact, there's so many ways to be sexy with your own voice and not trying to put on any kind of sound. So yeah, ladies, please leave that one. Or even men too that have that, please. And women who have that voice that can be, yes, hello, it's my elegant. Well, elegant is different than sexy. And then there's the male voice where you get a lot of announcers, right? And they just want to hear themselves land the word, right? And then we'll land it like this. And they like to hear the end of that. And that becomes a pattern. It becomes repetitious. It becomes something that is expected and certainly does not engage your listener. It just becomes something that becomes boring after a while.
No, and credibility in any kind of style that you're doing is a sort of unintentional kind of delivery that it really is about connecting with the other person that you're connecting with rather than sounding like you're connecting with the other person you're connecting with, right? And so that sameness, whatever that is, that sameness oftentimes comes from let me manufacture.
Sure.
Let me create. Or I hear a lot of clients say, Law, you want me to sound like this? I say,
no.
I don't really want you to sound like this. I want you to be this.
Yeah. I want you to be it.
I want you to be it. I don't want you to sound like it because it would be like, in our terms, like, can you just sound like a mother? Yeah. Well, I'm a mother, and I can tell you there's many different sounds to being a mother.
Yeah. It isn't what does a mother sound like?
Right. Or I want you to sound sexy. Well, there's many different intonations of what that could be like. So I would caution people to be careful of sounding the mechanics of sound.
I agree.
And getting too much into that versus the landscape of intrinsic emotional value and authentic connection.
Absolutely. And especially when when you're auditioning too, right? And it'll say you might have a sound-alike. So what do you do when you have a sound-alike? You're trying to just sound like them. And then what you forget to do is you're trying so hard to sound like them that you forget to tell the story. As a matter of fact, I always say when casting specs come out and they say, think Jennifer Garner or think whoever they might have, whoever the voice of the day is, Chris Pratt. Don't think that way, but just channel their personality. And that's where the acting will come in. And then, because nobody wants you to necessarily, well, sometimes there will be special occasions where they really do want a sound-alike. And in that case, I think there are people out there that have very, very, it's unmistakable. And you're like, oh my gosh, you sound just like. And that I think is a separate marketing tactic. However, for the most part, when casting is asking for a particular sound, I always say, well, don't try to reproduce the sound or mimic the sound. Just channel the actor.
Ooh. I love that. Channel the actor. And you'll notice with actors, especially those that are mimicking, say, a political figure or something, because they're comedians, they're going to throw their whole body into it. Their mind, their body, their content, their whatever. They won't just sound like that person. Yeah. They'll start becoming that person.
They have to embody that person.
Yeah, they have to embody that person really to do it authentically and to do it well. And so we do the same thing. We're mimicking as well in terms of we're mimicking a real person in this industry, but in order to do it, we have to embody.
Yes. Not just whole sound, but embody the being.
It's like, can I mimic an executive? Let me mimic an executive
sound. Be.
It's hard because I have to know, like, well, where are they and what's the situation and what industry are they in and how old are they? And that's going to give me a lot of cues as to the authentic connection versus just the pattern of a sound that they're creating. This is a great conversation. I love this.
Yeah. So if you have somebody who is Latino and has a very heavy, Spanish accent, what would you say to them?
Well, in regards to, there's a market. There's certainly a market. I think in regards to Latino, you've got a lot of different dialects. I'd say first thing that comes to my mind is, are you accent-free in your native language? You would know that, or you could ask to find out if you're accent-free. And if not, what is your dialect? What is the particular dialect? So that we know for the particular castings, if they're looking for certain dialects, that you fall into that. And a lot of them are not. A lot of them are saying, we would like native, authentic, Spanish, Latino, but not particular dialect. Yeah. So that's interesting. Right. That opens up the playing field for you. Sure. I think it's great. Yeah. I think being able to speak Spanish is just like a gold card.
Oh, absolutely.
To a ton more work.
Right. Absolutely.
I do.
And understanding that and understanding where the markets are for that. And so I might have somebody that says to me, well, will this work for e-learning? Or will this work for corporate? And I'll say, well, you have to understand that your market is going to be more of a global market, or your market will be those companies that are looking to be able to expand in that region. So I'm not going to say no, and I'm not going to say that you necessarily need to go spend thousands of dollars on dialect coaching, right? And it's also difficult. It's
really
not like,
difficult.
Oh, here, let me sound like somebody from Minnesota, but yet I'm
And also, Annie, it's not fun. It's not fun work.
No, it isn't. It's hard.
It's very
tedious.
boot camp. It's very drill. It's very hardcore. Like in conservatory actor training, oftentimes they'll do a training system where they'll learn a particular dialect or they'll have to get a particular accent. It's hard. It's a regimentation that you have to go into and really prescribe to. And you have to have a reason to do that. Most people don't have a reason to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Law. Now, is there a reason? I mean, there used to be a thing. We have dialect coaches, but we also have coaches that teach dialects, right? So I have a role and I need to have an Irish accent. So is it something these days that you believe voice actors should pursue? And what type of genres could be looking for that these days? Or are they all looking for authentic? That's a good question, right?
It's a good question. I think years gone by when I was training, yes, you'd have more reason to do it. Now, no, you don't have as much reason to do it because even in animation, oftentimes we're looking for more authentic native sounds and accents of people with talent that really come from the place that they are voicing. And so I'd be very careful of spending too much time and energy and money and resources learning accents when really oftentimes you're going to see those auditions calling for indigenous speakers to these particular areas.
Absolutely.
I'd wait. And if it's something that they're asking you for and they're interested in working with you, then it's really a pointed reality of why you would do it. Like there's an end game to it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I wouldn't do it so quickly.
All right. So, Law, we've discussed people who have, let's say, accents, dialects, regionalisms. Let's just say a Boston accent that are not necessarily, a different language, but definitely a regionalism. And what would you say to them in terms of their marketability, let's say in commercial? Or their marketability, right? Okay, so I have a strong Boston accent and I want to get into voiceovers and do commercials. Right. And what do you do when you get a demo where you hear that everywhere?
Right. I mean, I personally love it because I know there are a lot of gigs out there that look for authentic New England dialects. And there's many of them. There is no such thing as the Boston accent. Massachusetts has like over 100 dialects. So it really is specific. But the first thing I ask is, can you drop your accent and do North American? Many Bostonians can actually. If they're actors, they can. And many cannot. Many just cannot. And just know the difference whether you can do it or whether you can't do it.
Is it worth it for someone to invest in doing it, would you say, if they wanted to get into voiceover as a career?
No, I do not think it is. I honestly don't think it is because it only takes one or two slips on a vowel sound to know.
And you know it.
And you know it. I think it would be very, very highly stressful to do that kind of thing, especially like as an adult. If you're a kid, that's different. You can pick it up young. But if you're an adult, I don't think it's worth your time. I think you should just go for the gold, just like go for every single thing that Boston dialect will offer to you.
Absolutely.
And just claim it. Say, I'm the Boston gal. I'm the Boston guy. This is what I do.
And I'll tell you what, I've created many a corporate demo and an e-learning demo for people in New York and people in New England and people who have have a bit of a regionalism. Now,
Yes.
Southern, even Southern, like South Carolina, North Carolina, and Texas. I've definitely done Texas. So anybody that has somewhat of a Southern accent, as long as it's not, like I said, as long as it's not impeding my understanding of what it is that you're trying to convey. And I don't think that it's so full of the regionalism that other people can't understand either. But I always make sure that my students know that there may be a slightly limited market because of it. That's all.
Oh, but listen, you know what, Annie, here's the truth. If you're in the larger market of, say, the commercial world in North American sound, it's highly competitive.
Absolutely.
So just because you're in the majority of what the sound is, what they're looking for, does not mean it's easier to book.
Oh,
in
gosh,
fact,
yes.
oftentimes
It's harder.
to book.
It's harder.
I'll give you a quick
Absolutely.
example because you were talking about British earlier. We just had a casting for British, authentically British. And we had in our roster, we have about 500 talent. which is still
Authentically
small.
British, I say. That's another topic.
Native
Yep.
British. We had 4 people audition. 4. And out of the 4, we had to drop one who we know is
Wasn't
not
authentic.
native
Yep.
British. And why she submitted, I don't know, but we ditched it. We dropped it right out. The others are natively, they live in the UK, right? And there you go. So they have much more chance of booking that job
Well, that's
than the
it,
85
right?
who just auditioned for our North American,
Absolutely.
bank commercial. So that's just my thought.
And that's understanding your market and understanding. So, like, I'm a big fan of target market specific demos, right? So if you have a regionalism, if you're bilingual, if you have that capability, I always say, let's showcase that in a demo, right? So that the people who are hiring or want to hire you or potentially hire you understand those are what I consider to be unique specialties. And also understand for yourself that those are markets you will seek. Because it's great to be, we always talk about, well, you need to be versatile, but also knowing what your niche is and knowing where your market is amazing because you can be the go-to for that market.
Right. Like I can't name all the talent in my North American roster, but I know my British talent.
Right? Yeah, they're memorable.
Yeah, well, it's not because the North American talent are not as important. It's because there's many more of them.
Sure.
And a lot of
absolutely.
them are very similar in traits in terms of how they sound. So that's just me. But I say, listen, if you're in a minority, I would boast that. I would brand that.
Yeah,
I would have a ball with that. I would not hide that. And I would never, here's the thing, don't try to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Like be the best version of you that
Yeah.
you can be. If you want to work on the side, let's say you have some extra income and you say, oh, but I want to work on it. I say, well, then go work on it. But don't have unrealistic expectations of being able to compete in a market with people who have those native sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yet another really amazing conversation. Wow.
Yes.
I love
Lovely.
it. Bosses, so embrace that individuality. If it happens to be something that might be a physical impediment, speech impediment, you might want to take a look at maybe how can you take steps to correct that if you truly want to be in voiceover to do that. And also, get the opinions of trusted coaches, trusted colleagues and friends just to see. And if somebody tries to sell you a demo right away without addressing those things, I want you to just literally just run the other way. You should absolutely, if you're looking to get into this industry and you do have a regional dialect, if you do have a speech impediment, if it's your most cherished dream, I still don't want you to go ahead and get a demo right away. I would absolutely speak to a few coaches about it, speak to trusted colleagues, trusted friends and family, and absolutely get their opinions on it. So thank you for
Great convo as always.
Wonderful chat as
Love it.
usual. And of course, bosses, we want you to create a world in which your voice can absolutely make a difference. And you can by giving and finding out more at 100 Voices Who Care to learn more. All right. Big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like bosses. Find out more at IPDTL.com. You guys have an amazing week and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.
Law, do you know what time of year it is?
What time,
It
Annie?
is the Audition Demolition Holiday Edition. Oh my gosh, Law. I am so excited for this Audition Demolition. It is, of course, holiday themed. Guys, it is on December 14th. Get those auditions in. And of course, you're going to have so much fun with the themed scripts. And what? I don't even know what I'm saying. I can't say
A blooper reel.
Yeah. All right. There we go. One more time.